What's going on, guys? Today we have Ashley here, my friend. We have her truck and we're going to be installing this Icon lift kit. All right, so for this kit we have the upper control arms, we have the front coilovers, we have the rear shocks, and we have the rear add a leaf pack. And I'll have a link to all this stuff in the description. First we're going to install the upper control arms, then we're going to install the coilovers, then we're going to install the rear shocks, and then the springs. So with that being said, we're going to start on the front end. Now that we got the truck lifted on some safety stands, we're gonna go ahead and move this jack right under the lower control arm just to prevent it from being at full droop. Now we're gonna remove the cotter pin, we're gonna remove this nut, we're gonna try to get this ball joint off. Now that we got that popped off, we're gonna use a 10mm wrench and take this ABS line off. To make it a little easier, we're gonna remove this right here, or at least pop this clip off, so that way we have better access to this nut. All right, now we're gonna remove this pivot bolt. Okay. We did run into a little predicament. This bolt lines up perfectly with the body. Can't remove it. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to grab either a pair of channel locks or something like this. We're gonna have to pry this back a little bit to give us a little more room. Yeah, you just know. All right, so that was a little rough, but we got it. We had to do a lot of prying on this frame, and as the bolt was coming out, there's a kind of a lip in the inside. You have to kind of use this bolt as a pivot point with a pry bar and kind of press back on this this metal to get that bolt all the way through. But we got it. In order to get to this, we're gonna have to remove the tie rod link and move it back away. Then we're gonna disconnect the sway bar from the frame. You will have to remove the stock skid plate. So we're gonna have to disconnect the sway bar and push it out of the way forward just to make clearance for the shock. Then we're gonna remove these upper nuts. There should be 3 of them. Do not remove this. This will cause the coil spring to fly out. And then we're gonna remove this nut and bolt for the rear, or the bottom of the shock. with some wiggling around, we were able to get that shock off. Now we have our brand new coil spring right here, and we're gonna go ahead and install. So this kit comes with some grade 8 bolts, as you can see. We have our bolt right here and a lock washer. So with the old factory spring, it actually has studs right here that utilizes these nuts. But instead, we're actually gonna be bolting from the top of this of the frame into the shock. And these are torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. Bottom bolt 61. Now that the shock absorber is fully installed, we're gonna be putting in the upper control arms. So basically, it's gonna be bolt, little washer, big washer, upper control arm, big washer, goes through the middle, big washer, upper control arm, big washer, little washer, and then nut. And this pivot nut's going to be torqued to 85 foot-pounds. And you could unbolt the brake line right here and right here, just to make it easier to fit a socket over that nut. Mistake I made, make sure to put these on before you install the upper control arms. And now we could go ahead and install our ball joint to the spindle, and then install our tie rod on this side, and that will pretty much conclude the driver's side. And then after that, we're gonna work on the passenger side. This nut will be torqued down to 75 foot-pounds. Okay, probably should have noted this in the beginning, but we are gonna have to remove this just so we have access so we can torque this down properly. Now we're gonna install this link back on. This is gonna be 52 foot-pounds. Tie rod nut is gonna be 67 foot-pounds. If the holes don't line up, you could go ahead and tighten this a little more just to line it up. We went ahead and clipped these rubber things back on. So we got our upper control arm installed and our coilover installed. So now we're gonna work on the other side, and then we'll start with the rear leaf springs. All right, so the passenger side's all done now. All we have to do is just install these sway bar bracket relocation blocks, and we'll move on to the back. And then sway bar bracket bolts are gonna be torqued to 37 foot-pounds. All right, now for these brackets, they're gonna be installed with this opening facing towards the front of the vehicle. And then these sway bar bracket bolts are gonna be torqued down to 35 foot-pounds. All right, this is a Tacoma resting on its own weight, and it looks a lot higher than it did before. I mean, we haven't done the back yet. It's kind of like a reference. Back is like that, front is like that. We don't like this, so we're gonna lift up the back right now. It is getting, well, it is dark, so we are still determined to tackle this. So I'm not gonna record me installing the rear leaf springs, but I will show you when it's done right after, and we'll have our reactions to the ride quality. Alright guys, so this is like a few days after. It got really late and I didn't want to continue recording. So the truck already has wheels and tires on it along with the lift. So right now we're on the road and it is performing really well. We're on our way to Big Bear. Ashley, how do you feel about it?
I like it.
So to me, it feels a lot smoother than it did before. So Ashley, what do you think?
I agree. I think it feels a lot smoother. The first night we took it out, it was a bit bumpy, but I think it needs to be worn in a bit.
Yeah.
But I like it.
So in a bit, once we get there, I'm gonna show you what the truck looks like, and then we're gonna take it for an off-road test. So we'll see you then. So we went ahead and aired down to 18 PSI on the tires, and this suspension is actually taking in some beating. Like, it is performing so well. When you're going a little slow, you can't really, you know, it's a little rough than stock, but when you start speeding up, the suspension shines so well. We actually took it on a jump earlier. Well, on accident. we went through some pretty big bumps and we actually hit a jump pretty hard, and it was a cloud. So this thing's doing really well. Here we spent the rest of the day off-roading. Overall, the suspension performed beyond expectations. Ride quality did not suffer from lifting the truck. Ride quality on the road was pretty similar to stock, which was nice. Since this truck is mainly used for dailying and towing every day, it was good to know that the lift did not impact the ride quality in a bad way. As for off-road, the suspension also did a really good job eating up some of the terrain going at medium to fast speeds. If you plan on going really slow through these trails, it will feel a little more bumpy than stock, but overall, I think it's a good sacrifice for having the truck lifted. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more content, feel free to subscribe. I have more Tacoma content coming for my truck. So if you guys would like to see that, that's coming up soon. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.